Hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's session where we'll be talking something a little bit unique. If you can hear me, first of all, can you just type yes on the comment so that I know that you are able to hear me? Okay, thank you, Christine. All right, so we are all ready to go. So tonight we're going to talk about how you can be involved investing in Thai stocks through the Singapore Stock Exchange or the SGX. And today we also have our partner here with us, M Investment Bank. We have Miss Joey, who will also be presenting to you guys on some of the campaign that they have if you invest in the Singapore stock market. And of course, the M Investment Bank is one of the participating broker where you can also invest not just Malaysian stocks but also Singapore stocks. All right. So before I start today's presentation, I'm just gonna invite Ms. Joey to basically share with us what M Invest have to offer to all those who are investing in the SGX. All right.
Thank you, Benny. Can everyone hear me? Can you hear me, Benny?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, great. Okay, a very good evening to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having me tonight. My name is Joey from M Investment Bank. First of all, I would like to thank Benny, Equities Tracker, for giving us this opportunity tonight to share with you on the marketing initiative that M Investment Bank has rolled out in August 2023. So in collaboration with SGX, Singapore Exchange Limited, the equity market team in M Investment Bank, we have rolled out a campaign called Terima Kasih with Omakase, as you can see on the screen. In this campaign, we are giving out rewards and cash prizes to our retail clients who trade stocks listed in Singapore Exchange. So basically, we'll be treating the top 3 winners with the highest brokerage generated in any stocks listed in the Singapore Exchange within the campaign period to an omakase meal for 2 packs worth 4,640 ringgit per winner. Next slide, please, Benny. So there are also lucky draws to the retail clients who perform any buy or sell trade online or offline of any stocks listed in Singapore Exchange within the campaign period. So every transaction will earn for 1 entry. That being said, the more transaction you made, the more entry you will earn. A total of 3 winners will be selected by the end of the campaign, and each winner will receive 1,000 ringgit each. So M Investment Bank is also giving brokerage cashback to the retail clients who perform any buy or sell trades online or offline of any stocks listed in the Singapore Exchange within the campaign period, up to 200 ringgit brokerage cashback per retail client per month until the total incentive is fully redeemed or the campaign period is closed. Next slide, please, Benny. So on top of the 200 ringgit brokerage cashback, we are also giving out an additional cashback. We call it the zero brokerage for Singapore Depository Receipts. So if the retail clients perform any buy or sell trade online or offline of the Singapore Exchange listed Singapore Depository Receipts within the campaign period, he or she will receive up to 150 ringgit per retail client per month until the total incentive is fully redeemed or the campaign period is closed. So this marketing initiative started on 1st of August and it is expiring on the 31st of October 2023. So if you're interested to understand further on the campaign, next slide please, Benny. Do scan on the QR code on the screen, or you can click on the link provided in the comment box, fill up your details and submit it to our team. We will reach out to you as soon as possible to open an account with us. So once again, thank you for your time and please enjoy your evening. Thanks, Benny.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Joey. So please do take the opportunity at the moment from M Invest Bank. Like you said, the link has been provided on the chat, so on the comment section, so you can click on that link to get more information for the promotion that they have currently lah. All right. So today we're going to discuss about the not 3 counters but two counters, which are the SDRs, which Ms. Joey just mentioned earlier, which is somehow related to the Thai tourism industry. All right, so let's take a look at what we have, sharing with you guys, and of course, whatever that's being shared here today is for educational purposes only. It's not intended as any investment advice. So please do look at the information that we have to share and do your own due diligence before you make any investment decisions. All right. Now, how many of you, if you can just type in a comment if you are there, you have at least visited Thailand once in your lifetime, right? Until to now, if you have visited Thailand before, you can just type me or just type Thailand. All right, so to get an idea of the attractiveness of Thailand as a tourist, as a top tourist destination globally, right? So we're going to basically share with you how it can basically be involved in the Thai tourism industry as well by looking at some of these counters that are being offered, so that you have a chance to invest in the Thailand tourism as well. All right, so Christopher, thanks multiple times, right? So you go there once already, you probably want to go back there again lah, for whatever reasons you want to go back there. So if you look at Thai, of course, Thailand was, it's very much, the economy is also very much dependent on the tourism industry or the tourism sector, right? Of course, in 2020, when the COVID-19 hits, when the pandemic hits, when countries went into a lockdown, their industry is very much affected, right? The question right now that, the COVID-19 pandemic is now way behind us, do we see an increase in the Thai tourism industry? So one of the indication, which is actually from one company that we're going to talk about in a short while, which is the Airports of Thailand, actually came out with the statistics, right? And you can see the big fall here in 2020 was because of the pandemic. So the number of passengers basically moved down to 0, right? When the pandemic, when the lockdown starts, because nobody can travel. But before that, before 2020, you were seeing a very steady growth over the past 10 years, right? The number of tourist arrivals in Thailand has just improved over time, right? So if we look at in 2008, 2010, for example, we are looking at about 10 million passenger movement in the airports of Thailand, right? And that has actually gone up to more than 10 million. So there's like a double, 2 times, right, of passenger movements in Thailand over the course of 10 years. So that's quite significant, right? So between 2020 and 2022, of course, that's when the restrictions have started to come down. We can see some passenger movement, but it was quite low between 2020 and 2022, right? But we see a jump once most of the countries have lifted their restrictions, right? When people can travel again, you can see there's a sharp increase again in the passenger movement in Thailand in all the airports, right? So it hasn't gone back to the pre-pandemic levels, but the trend is basically going up there, right? So definitely it's higher than 2012, before 2012 levels, but is still increasing as we speak, right? And probably 2024. You could see that number continue to increase as more people are now going to travel again, especially in Thailand, where it's still the main or top tourist destination globally. All right. So there, of course, we'll look at who's going to benefit in this industry when we have a recovery in the tourism sector. One of the direct beneficiaries, of course, is the airports of Thailand. And you guys in Malaysia, we know it's basically Malaysian airports Berhad, right? So airports of Thailand, they own most of the airports in Thailand, and therefore that's where most of the revenue comes from. And the revenue is very much tied to the number of passengers in the airport, right? So if we do see a rise in the number of passengers in the airport or movement in airports, then definitely the revenue and the profits of airports of Thailand will start to increase again. So this is what we're going to look at, right? And how basically what does airport of Thailand do, where the revenue comes from, expenses, and also their growth, right? So airports of Thailand, or AOT, okay, is basically a government-linked company, right? The Ministry of Finance has a 70% stake, and the other 30% is held by institutional and retail investors, right? So remember, it's 70% owned by the government. Today, you can see the shareholders' information. Yes, 70% is owned by Ministry of Finance, and most of them are institutions, right? And the rest of them are basically retail, right? Okay, so the daily market cap, you look at the average daily market cap over the past 2 years, right? From 2021 October until 2023, we are looking at a trillion, right? A trillion baht company lah, right? Trillion baht company. That's how big AOT is, right? So AOT has 6 airports, main airports, and you can look at most of the airports are at the main tourist attractions lah, right? We have 2 airports in Bangkok itself. One is Suvarnabhumi, the other one is Don Mueang International Airport, right? So 2 airports itself in Bangkok, right? And there are other 4 international airports in Chiang Mai. Again, Chiang Mai is also another main tourist destination, right? Phuket, I'm sure some of you have visited Phuket before. We have Hat Yai, and we have Mei Fah Luang, Chiang Rai International Airport as well, right? So these are all the main ones. So basically, they are the godfather of airports in Thailand, right? So Suvarnabhumi Airport is one of the latest airport and one of the biggest airports, right? And they carry around 58 million passengers through this airport itself. It's one of the largest number of passengers actually globally, right? It costs about 155 billion baht, or about $5 billion to complete. And it has 2 runways, and it can accommodate about 64 flights per hour. So that's how big it is. Right. So, and this space is continuing to grow as long as the number of passengers continue to grow in Thailand, right? Especially in Bangkok. So, the Suvarnabhumi Airport right now is the international arrival point in Thailand, because everybody goes to the Suvarnabhumi Airport first for Bangkok, right? And then from there are of course other flights to the other parts of Thailand, right? And it's a really major transfer hub when it comes to flights in Southeast Asia. Okay, so I've shown you before this chart. This is the total air traffic of AOT, the passenger movement. And you can see that number has risen quite significantly after 2022. In 2022, where we see the strong growth in passenger, and up to 2023, there's already like 8.9 million, right? And the peak before that pandemic was 13.3 million. So if everything goes back to normal and people are starting to travel and go to Thailand again, there is still some potential upside of this passenger movement when hit probably 10 million and above. But you have to be reminded that this growth keep on increasing year on year, right? So, if people are traveling again, and tourists, and Thailand has always been a main tourist destination, we could possibly see the numbers exceeding even the January 2020 level. But that's just my take, right? Whether it's going to get there, because people have been actually not traveling for some time, and we probably have a frenzy of passengers coming in, especially when China really opens up, right? The source of revenue for AOT, okay, is normally divided by 2 main segments: aeronautical, which is related to flights, right? So we have landing and parking charges, you have departure, passenger service charges. This is all charges that we pay as a passenger, right? There are also aircraft service charges. Okay, so this is related to the flight or aeronautical. And then they also have non-aeronautical. So you can see it's almost split half, right? So non-aeronautical things like the office rents, the services, like utilities, check-in counters, and so on. So these are all services related to flights. And then we also have concessions like food, duty-free shops. I still remember in Thailand there was King Power there, right? Which is big duty-free shop there. So catering and all the other stuff, right? So and of course, all of this ties to the number of passengers, right? In the Thailand airports, right? So the number of passengers go up, of course, is revenue and all that. The service and the service charges, the concessions, all start to go up as well. Okay, so if you look at a broad picture, in the past about 3.5 years, 3 years, right, we see that their main revenue, 39.68%, nearly 40%, comes from departure passenger service charge, right? The second largest one is the concession, right? All the shops and all that in the airports. And then it goes to services and the rest of them, right? So passenger service charge makes up the bulk of the revenue, okay. And you can see that in 2020, the revenue was at about 31. This is 31 billion, right? 31 billion baht, right? And it's actually come down. And 2020 is also affected by the COVID numbers because the financial year end is in September, and we have the lockdowns in March, April, right? So definitely this 2020 number is also already affected, okay. And 2021, 2022, of course, the number has dropped significantly, especially on the departure passenger service charge, right? It's gone down because that's the main bulk of it, right? But it has come down quite significantly, right, because of the lockdown. 2021, 2022, there was some when the gates, when the borders are all open up a little bit, we do see a jump, so quite a big jump here, 133%. From 2021. So we do see some activities back again, right? And the 9 months of 2022, it came down a little bit, but then there's a big jump in 2023 itself. Remember I showed the chart earlier, the number of passengers really start to come in after 2022, right? So you can see a very strong jump. The first 9 months for the financial year 2023, they have already made 32 billion baht, right? Which is higher than the 2020 revenue, okay? So this is still another 3 more months until September when we have the results. So even that in the first 9 months is already higher than 2020 revenue itself. Okay, so at the expenses, if you look at it, is quite consistent, and the expenses is also tied to the number of passengers. Of course, more passengers come in, the expenses has gone up as well. But generally, if you look over the years, the expenses has always been around the same, right? Around 20 billion. Kind of expenses. 2022, there's expenses here as well. It came down a bit because some services are down, but now it's starting to come up back again a little bit, but it's still lower than the previous expenses because of the increase in passengers. All right. So the bulk of the expenses actually go to basically salaries and all that, right? The other one will be the depreciation and amortization of its assets, because it's very asset heavy kind of business, right? So depreciation actually contributes quite a lot on the expenses as well. And then the rest of them, like expenses, outsourcing, and rental, and so on and so forth, right? But again, the bulk of it actually comes from people, right? Human resource. Now, if you look at this data per share, this company EPS, that's in 2015 and 2016, it was quite high. But 2017 onwards has gone down a bit. It has gone down. And dividends has also come down, right? Because now that prices has actually gone up, especially after 2016, you can see a jump in prices, share price, right? And therefore, the dividends per share has come down because of the price. Dividend yield has come down as well. So if you look at the yield, it's between 1 to 2%. So this is almost like an investment grade or a blue chip kind of counter, right? Very low dividend yield, but slow and steady kind of growth. Okay. But their dividend payout policy is actually quite strong. Their policy is actually not less than 25%. But historically, over the past 5 years that we have the data here, you can see that they pay between 50 to 60% payout, right, from their net profits. So that's a very good sign that they're actually paying back the shareholders on their profits lah. I remember because the dividends go back to the bigger shareholders as well, which is the Thailand government, right? So they have very strong dividend policies. Just that because the price has always been higher, and therefore the dividend yield is quite lower, right? So if you're looking at this stock as a stock to invest, is more like a blue chip or investment grade stocks, where you are looking at a longer term growth, right? The PE has actually gone up quite substantially because price has jumped immediately when markets start to speculate. The increase in tourism arrivals, the increase in number of passengers coming to Thailand, and you can see that even in Malaysia, right? Like Asia shares, Malaysia airport shares has all gone up quite significantly because their market is expecting improvement in the travel sector or tourism sector. All right. So if you look at the PE, right, historically, the highest PE was in 2018. Of course, that's when we see high tourist arrivals and people will move able to move very freely, right? And therefore, the share price actually come up quite a lot. And therefore, the PE was historical high was 45 times, right? And you look at the current PE, it's probably about 30%. It's about 38 times. So it has come down a bit. Again, whether you want to look at it as high or not, but you remember the highest PE event was 45 times. And if you don't look at the price charts where they are at currently in terms of share price, we're going to take a look at it at the next slide. All right. So if you look at this, this is a very long-term monthly chart for AOT. Okay, and you can see the line here. This is a linear regression line, and in the long term, you do see growth, right? Very strong growth. And you see like 2018 and 2019, 2020, when the price has gone up above its average, and technically we call it overbought when the prices are trading above the average, right? 2018, 19, and 20. And that's one of the reasons why you see the dividend yield has fallen, the earnings per share has fallen as well, because share prices has gone up quite substantially at that period lah. So even during the COVID-19 lockdowns, you can see the price has actually made a decline. All right, it was trading at about 80 plus baht at that point of time in late 2019, and it only went down to about 50 baht. So that's about about a 40% fall lah. Okay, and of course it did not go lower than that 50. Just slightly lower than the 50 baht, but it started to recover itself year 2020 onwards, right? And of course, year 2022, we see price has started to increase as well, okay? But the good thing is that it is still in the red zone, which means that the price is not really overbought yet, right? Because this line that you see here is actually a linear regression line, which I normally use to look at long-term trend, okay? Because this is actually a linear or a straight line method to calculate the average price movement. Like in this case, the price movement is about 10 years price movement. The center line that you see here, the dotted line, that's the average, right? And then we have the bottom line here and the top line here, that's the two standard deviation against the linear regression line. And normally we use it as a floor at the red zone at the bottom here, and then the ceiling, which is the two standard deviation at the top in the blue zone. All right. So if you compare comparatively on the growth that we see from 2013 to 2023, the price is still trading in the red zone. In fact, it's in the middle of the red zone. So if this share price and its company were to grow in its revenue and profits, you can see the price will probably trade around the average lah, right? And that average there currently is about 80 baht, right? And the price is currently trading at 73 baht. Right. So again, this is just an observation based on a long-term average trend. All right. Okay. If you have any questions, you can always type it down on a comment. All right. Because we still have one more company to look at. All right. Before we end tonight. Right. And also how you can actually trade or invest in these stocks lah. Okay. So if you have any questions, just type it down. Now, one of the potential, of course, it may be indirect potential beneficiaries in the tourism sector would be this company called CPO. they are basically in the retail segment, right? Particularly 7-Eleven lah, right? Because if you go to Thailand, anywhere that you go, whether it's a big city or small city, you probably see a 7-Eleven in every corner, right, in Thailand, right? So this is what CP is all about. And of course, the arrival of tourists, and in Thailand, if you go to Bangkok or some major cities, you'll see that foreigners who are tourists is probably 30% of the population there. Now, I'm just giving an estimate. This is not this is just a guesstimate, right? But you go to Bangkok or some cities like Chiang Mai and all that, you go to the towns, you go to tourist area, you see that mostly are foreigners, right? So, of course, whether they're foreigners or not, people will still go to convenience shop or retail shops to buy stuff, right? So definitely with the increase of tourism arrival, foreign tourists, it will benefit this company as well, right? So when they start to operate 7-Eleven. So that's basically their trademark, right? So 1988, okay? And of course, after 7-Eleven is supposed to be a retail store with a 24/7 or 24 hours open, right? It's really a convenience shop. So, people like, even if those who are, and Thailand is also one of the major entertainment industries in the world, and people go out at night, especially tourists, right? And if they need food after midnight, people will still go to 7-Eleven, right? And today, 7-Eleven also becomes like a shop for a lot of people to buy not just convenience, not just household products, but also food. Okay, we're going to talk about that in a short while, because the company start to offer other food products and services, right? Like you can get instant food, you can cook your food with a microwave oven and all that there. And then, of course, they also have other services like what we see in 7-Eleven here, right? Like bill payments, like here we have Touch and Go and all this kind of other payments. They also sell bakery products, IT, e-commerce, and all this kind of other stuff, right? It started off with a household product, the everyday use product, but they've gone to other services as well. Okay, so they've expanded quite widely. I'll let you know how many 7-Elevens there are actually there in Thailand. But in 2013, CP actually acquired Siam Macro Public Company Limited, which operates a membership-based cash and carry trade center. I think you still remember the time even in Kuala Lumpur. I'm not sure about other than Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. We have this macro hypermart, right? Cash and carry wholesale. So they've actually acquired Siam Macro. Okay, and then in 2021, Macro invested in Lotus Asia's business. Okay, so they operate hypermarkets, which now you can see in Malaysia as well, right? They started in Thailand, and of course, like you see the brand here, Tesco has actually changed to right now acquired by Lotus, right? So Lotus is now part of the CP group as well. Okay. So these are some of the major brands under their portfolio. 7-Eleven, of course, they started with this and they continue to develop this, right? So basically, we all know what 7-Eleven do, but there's difference between Malaysia 7-Eleven and Thailand 7-Eleven, right? Because I still remember when I was in Thailand, if there's no food around, I can get even like food like pad thai or khao pad, right? Or whatever other trademark Thailand food is available in 7-Eleven itself. Okay, you just have to heat it up and you can eat it already, right? So 7-Eleven becomes not just in a convenience store providing the everyday household products, but now it's also a center for people to go and look for food and drinks as well, right? Apart from other services like top-ups and all this kind of payment of bills and all that, right? So it's a store that everyone goes to okay? So if you look at these stores in Thailand itself, there is quite a number. You can see that every year they've increased like 700 over stores, right, in Thailand. So it can be a corporate partner or it can be a store business partner in some areas. You can see that there's 13,800 stores in 2022 in Thailand itself, right? So it's very significant compared to Malaysia 7-Eleven is about 2,000 stores, right? So this is almost like 7 times more, 6 to 7 times more than Malaysia, lah. All right. So CPL, of course, hold a major franchise, and they have basic corporates who open stores and also business partners or individuals or retailer, right? But you can see that now, even during the pandemic, they've grown the number of stores, right? And every year is about 700 stores. So that's quite significant. Why, right? Why there are so many 7-Eleven stores nearby? Of course, in Thailand, as area grows and population grows, number of customers increase, and that one store itself, even in a small district, right, or small area, the one store itself will not be able to meet the needs of all the customers, right? So sometimes you see, even in especially the heavy traffic, like Bangkok, right, you can even see 2 or 3 7-Eleven stores with your view, one eye view, right? And you can see they're quite nearby, right? Because if it's only one 7-Eleven store there, it's going to be packed, people will be lining up, right? So therefore, because there's a lot of demand for customers going to 7-Eleven stores, and therefore they will keep on opening. So as the number grows, and of course, if the tourist number grow as well, it has to suit both local and also foreign tourist demands, lah. All right. And everybody knows 7-Eleven, especially if I'm a foreigner who hasn't been to Thailand before. You want to go and get some food, for example. I would not want to go to the street food, right, where I don't want to spend the rest of my holiday getting stomach upset, right? So the safest one will probably go to a 7-Eleven store. The meals are all there prepared, right? There's hygiene. All I need to do is just to heat it up and just get my meal over there, right? So it becomes a very convenient store, not just for the locals, but also for the tourists. All right. There are special requirements 7-Eleven in Thailand, which makes it a little bit unique. Okay. 70% of their store partners actually does not have any experience. So one of the things that they do, if I want to operate a 7-Eleven store, for example, they actually have a very systematic training process. They have to train the partners how to run the business, because remember, this is a franchise. The standard has to be same in every shop, right? So they'll give you they'll give you advice and so on and so forth, right? Or in order for you to continue to run your store. Okay, so that's a support that's being given to them. The second requirement is the store has to be open 24 hours a day, right? You cannot be like, like even in Malaysia after the pandemic, you can see like we have one 7-Eleven shop downstairs in our office. They only open up to 10 p.m., right? Because they have to cater the office needs. But in Thailand, you have to open 24 hours a day, right? Of course, the longer period you open, it gives more. You open your business longer, so you get more people, right? Because Thailand is also, if you go to Thailand, a lot of people say that Thailand, especially Bangkok, is a city that never sleeps, right? So in order to cater for that need for a city that never sleeps, 24 hours a day opening of a retail shop or convenience shop is a requirement, right? Now, one of the big difference that you can see between the Malaysian 7-Eleven stores and also Malaysia and Singapore is that in 7-Eleven, the owner, okay, has to be present at the store. All right. If you go to a Malaysian 7-Eleven stores, you see mostly foreigners are operating the stores, right? You probably see workers, young people actually working at the 7-Eleven stores. But in Thailand, okay, the owner has to be there. All right. Okay, so they have to be present. So that is to make sure that the standard of the 7-Eleven shop that they open continues to be maintained. Okay, so they have a standard to maintain. So you go to every 7-Eleven shop in Thailand, they're quite the same, right? When you go there, you feel like, whether you go at a 7-Eleven shop in Bangkok or in Chiang Mai or Phuket, you see the whole style, the whole service, the whole standard is the same, right? Because the boss is there. Okay. So there are quite a number of brands under the CPO portfolio. So they have started, of course, with the 7-Eleven convenience shop, but now they've gone to they've integrated quite a lot of its supply chain right now. Even some of this other brands that they have is supplying through 7-Eleven itself, right? The products are sold in 7-Eleven. So they have cafe So you can get coffee even in 7-Eleven. There's these other companies that provides bakery products lah, and other stuff lah, right? So they're quite diversified at the moment as a company that provides retail products and services. Okay. They also have education services. Right now, they have diversified even further into logistics. There's also a marketing, media, information services, food bakery, and so on and so forth. So CPL has actually, started with just a convenience store concept, right? And now it's grown into a very big consumer brand. Okay. So if you look at the 7-Eleven business, right, you can see that their same store sales growth. We have actually quite very good increase in its store growth, right? If you look at 2018, for example, 2019, there's small growth, right? There's growth, but the growth is small. But 2020 and 2021, of course, sales has declined because of the pandemic, right? But 2022, you see a major comeback, right? There's a 15% growth. Why this high growth is also because it compares with the lower base in 2020 and 2021. Okay. And we look at the average daily sales per store, right, is about 76,600 baht per store. That's the average daily sales. So if you convert this to ringgit, for example, it's about 10,000 ringgit, right? If you convert this into Singapore dollar, it's about 3,000 Sing dollars. Okay. That's daily, right? So it's quite significant also, right? To make 10,000 ringgit a day. If it's a month, then it's like you take 10,000 multiplied by 30, that's 300,000 sales, right? And if you're wondering, hey, convenience shop, normally their margins will be low, isn't it? I mean, how much can they make from selling this product? How much can they make from selling, let's say, a bun? How much can they make by selling a toothbrush? How much they can make selling everything that they sell there? Okay, but if you look at later on, I'll show you what kind of margins that they have, right? You'll be quite shocked. I'm actually quite shocked as well when I look at the figures. So this is spending ticket per ticket, that means spending per customer. In 2022 has gone up. You can see that the spending has gone up, right, over the years, and it's about 84 baht per customer right now, right? So that means they spend about 84 baht, which is about 11-12 ringgit okay, per customer. The daily number of customers has improved significantly. 2020 and 2021, although there are lockdowns, because lockdowns, you see that there are not many tourists or foreign customers, right? And therefore, you can see the number drop. But even during the COVID pandemic, the locals still visit 7-Eleven to buy their stuff, right? And if you also notice in 7-Eleven in Thailand, that their prices are not so premium as compared to, let's say, in Malaysia, right? Because if you want convenient, you probably have to pay a little bit premium. Whereas in 7-Eleven, the prices are almost similar, just maybe a slightly higher price, but almost similar with the price that you get in supermarkets, right? So that's why you see, a lot of people, a lot of Thai, they don't really go to supermarkets unless they really want to buy a lot of stuff, right? And stuff that are not available in 7-Eleven. But most of their everyday stuff, including food, they'll just go to 7-Eleven, right? Because it's convenient. It's like everywhere. You go out of your house, you'll probably see a 7-Eleven by walking distance, right? So you look at this, the number of customers per day in a store, right, is 916. That's the average, right? So it's quite significant, right? Like it's like, even if you go to and you compare the 7-Eleven here in Malaysia and even in Singapore, in Thailand, you see that it's always happening, right? In the Thailand 7-Eleven, you see there's always people in 7-Eleven. There's no one time that you don't see any customer one. That's what I observe as well if I go to Thailand. And I've been to Phuket, Hat Yai, in Bangkok, in Chiang Mai, in Chiang Rai. You see that the numbers, there's always people when except of course during the night time but if you go to tourist destinations, even at night, even at the midnight, you still see a lot of people at 7-Eleven stores, right? So 916 customers a day. That's quite a lot, right? So if you look at their product mix, okay, what they sell most is actually food services, foods, processed foods, right? So like buns, I remember even eating burgers in 7-Eleven. You can eat fried rice, pad thai, fried noodles, and so on and so forth. Everything is available there, right? And you can see that nearly more than 70% of that revenue actually comes from food, right? So they are also basically replacing a lot of restaurants, right? If you want convenience, you want fast, instead of going to a restaurant where you pay a premium, you can actually just go to 7-Eleven, because a lot of those foods that's being sold in 7-Eleven are those well-known Thailand foods, right? That you can also find in 7-Eleven. Of course, it will not taste as good as restaurants, but you have the convenience there. Even local Thais actually go to 7-Eleven to get their food because it's so convenient. All right. So 73%. And in fact, in Thailand, in Bangkok, the government has actually prevented a lot of street vendors from operating their street shops or their street food business in Thailand, in Bangkok especially, because they want to clean up Bangkok, right? Because if you go to Bangkok like 10, 15 years ago, you'll see a lot of shops, a lot of people selling food peddlers under the bridges, under the alleys or along the alleys and all that, right? But that number has reduced significantly. If you go to Bangkok now, it's almost like you want to find street food in Thailand is not that easy, because most of them now are in the shops, right? And that, of course, contributed to more people going to 7-Eleven as well, right? And you can look at it, but 20 to 30% of their product mix are basically personal health care, all those household products, including cigarettes and condoms and so on and so forth. All right. So this is their gross margin, right? So you think that, wow, how much can you make from being a retail store? And they are not selling at a premium price as well as compared to, let's say, the 7-Eleven in Malaysia or in Thailand, right? Even with that, they are able to make more than 26% margins, right? And this is gross margin. So non-food, total food, or even foods, all the products that has at least a 25% gross margin, right? Which is quite good. I mean, if you compare to maybe the Malaysian 7-Eleven ones, you probably get lesser margins than that. All right. So CPO financials, you can see that their revenue is actually quite steady. You look at just the revenue from just the revenue itself at the top. We see like 500 billion, even in 2020 and 2021, their revenue is still about the same because people still go to 7-Eleven to get their household products and also their food, right? Because if you still remember, during the lockdown, you can only work within or go around certain kilometers of your radius from where you are, right? And definitely, you can find any 7-Eleven the moment you walk out of your house, right? So 2020, you can see 2021, the revenue is still maintained, right, about 500 billion. In 2022, he has risen quite significantly. Again, maybe this could be also potentially be because of the number of foreigners or tourists coming into Thailand as well. All right. So the total revenue, has actually quite increased quite significantly between 21 and 2022, right? And if the number of tourists and keep on increasing in 2023 and 2024, you're probably going to see that revenue keep on increasing as well. All right. So they have quite good cash flows, right? Very little investments because you open a shop, what kind of investment can you do? Okay. So their free cash flow is also quite strong, except for, of course, during the pandemic period. All right. This is their price to earnings ratio. Even look at the valuation, currently is trading at 40x, which is around the average over historically. Only in 2022, remember when the sales actually risen quite significantly in 2022, you can see that the price has actually gone up quite significantly, right? But of course, if it's too high, it will come back, and it's now quite around its average, about 40x, right? So that's based on the price and earnings ratio. And if you look at the charts in the long term, so same chart that I put here, same tool, which is the linear regression line that I showed you on the AOT or the Airports of Thailand chart, right? That the average is still going up, of course, over the long term. In 2018 or 2020, you can see that the price was quite high, and that's because you can see very strong growth in its business. right? And pandemic comes, the price has also come down a bit. So you can see the decline is about 30% from 90 over baht to about 60 baht, 30 baht decline, right? Which is not significant, right? Because the business is still there. I show you the revenue has not much, it's not changed much in 2020 before or even after the pandemic, right? And the price has stayed quite sideways over the past 2-3 years, right? The good thing is the price is neither overbought when you look at the price trend over the long term. It is still trading at the red zone, right? Which means that the price is still there. But like I said, if you're looking moving forward in 2023 or 2024, beyond 2024, if everything really gets back to normal where it was previously, it is still at a discount from the peak, right? Now trading at about 65 baht, right? And the highest it went was about 90 baht. Okay, and if this continues to grow, of course, we will just follow this channel that you see here on the chart. All right. So technically, price is, I mean, it has been staying this sideways between 60 to 70 baht over the past 2-3 years, right? But if the numbers start to increase and the business starts to improve again, you'll probably see it starting to move again, right? So this is also almost like AOT. It's almost like an investment grade blue chip stocks where you probably expect not so high dividend yields, but you are there for the long-term growth. Okay, I want to put it as your portfolio as an investment grade or blue chip stocks. So CPO is almost, and even the share price movement that you look at here is almost the same as the airports of Thailand. All right. So it's a more longer term play for discounters, and you know, as we now the market has not really improved significantly as well because of because of the inflation and the interest rates and all that, right? But we are seeing slowdown economically worldwide, right? But if that starts to improve, okay, we're probably going to see those price levels at 2018 and 2018 levels again, because that's when, you know, you have people with flush of cash, interest rates was low, people have money to spend, the economic growth was there, and therefore people are more willing to spend. But this is not happening right now, right? But of course, it's always a cycle, and when the economic cycle comes back, when we have strong growth in the economy, then the businesses, whether it's CPO or whether it's AOT, and if the tourism sector continues to increase, these are all the beneficiaries. All right. Okay, so if you guys have any questions on these two companies, there's also another company that's trading on the SDR, which I'm going to explain right now in the next 10 minutes or so. How you can invest these companies, right? Of course, you can't invest these companies in Malaysia, and that's the reason why this seminar is all about how you can invest in these companies through the Singapore Stock Exchange, right? And if you have not, you don't have an investment or SGX trading account, you don't need to go to Singapore. You can just open up a broker like M Invest, for example, right? And if you are doing on M Invest right now, they actually have a special campaign for those who are investing in SGX and also the SDRs, right? So I'm going to explain to you what SDRs are all about. Okay, so how you can invest in this company. So investors in Singapore market, right? So that means if you are invested in the Singapore market, it doesn't mean that you're a Singaporean investor. But if I'm Malaysia, I'm investing in Singapore market, you can also invest in these stocks, right, through the SGX. Right, so now Singapore, if you are investing in Singapore market, you can also invest in foreign companies through the exchange with an instrument called the Singapore Depository Receipts, or SDR in short. All right. So basically, we look at the general view. I'll go into a little bit more detail in a short while. So let's say we have an overseas securities, and at the moment in Singapore, there's actually have the SDRs, and the market that they are now offering is Thailand, right? And that's the reason why we talk about Thai stocks, right? There are three stocks currently. Okay, one is AOT that I just mentioned to you, which is Thailand Airports. The other one is CPO, right, which is the retail products, consumer products. And there's another one called PTTEP, is an exploration, it's an oil and gas exploration company, right? But because PTTEP is not in the tourism sector, so that's why we leave this out at the moment. Maybe we'll talk about that in our next webinar, right? So we have a stock in overseas, right? So what happens is the SDR, okay, created by the exchange, overseas exchange, is actually backed by a underlying, right? Like if you have been trading warrants, warrants always have the underlying or the mother share, right? So SDR has also a mother share, okay? And then the SDRs, we have the overseas custodian for the SDRs because now it's going to go overseas, being traded overseas, right? Into another country. Okay, so I'll give you a better picture of this in the next slide, because this one is just a general view, right? So you're going to look at this is how it looks like. Okay, and of course, this is Thailand stocks and currently has 3 stocks, I just mentioned to you earlier. So we have the underlying company shares, let's say in Thailand, to give you a better picture, which is that 3 companies, right? AOT, Airports of Thailand, the CP Oil, the 7-Eleven one, and also the PTTEP, which is the oil and gas company. All right. So from that companies, the NVDR, okay, so NVDR means non-voting depository receipts, right? Is created by, of course, the issuer at that it was Thai NVDR companies, which is a subsidiary of SET. The reason why they created this is because they do not want, especially foreign ownership into the companies in Thailand, right? So if I'm a foreigner, I'll not be able to buy the underlying shares, right? But I can buy the NVDR. Okay. The benefit, basically buying an NVDR is almost like buying a stock, except that I don't have any voting rights, right? I get the economical benefits like dividends and all that from owning an NVDR, but not a voting right, lah. Okay, so this is largely created by SET, the Stock Exchange of Thailand itself, so that foreign can actually own, right, the NVDRs without really owning the company shares. Okay. So the NVDR, of course, goes to a custodian. So in Thailand, okay, if I'm a foreigner, I can buy those NVDRs. Okay, and Singapore Stock Exchange has actually brought the NVDRs in the form of SDR, Singapore Depository Receipts. Okay, this is from the Singapore Exchange. So they call it SDRs, and the underlying for the SDR in Singapore you're trading is not the underlying company, but it's actually the NVDR of the underlying company in Thailand. All right. So SDR is an issue in Thailand, of course, and once it's being issued and traded on the exchange, then you can buy and sell those SDRs, which has the same economic benefits with the NVDRs. Remember, except for voting rights, right? Through your CDP account, or in Malaysia we call it CDS, right? Then where you can trade Thailand SDRs. So at the moment, it's only Thailand. Of course, from time to time, Singapore will introduce more companies and maybe companies other than Thailand. All right. So the key benefits of SDR, of course, you have global access. Like I said, even if you are here in Malaysia or you're in Singapore, you can actually have access to Thailand stocks, right, indirectly, right, through SDRs. Okay. It's simplified because you know when you are trading SDRs in Singapore, it's just like trading any shares in Singapore, right? There's no additional overseas trading fees, foreign exchange fees, or management fees involved. It's just basically buying outright price, which is normally reflected from the Thailand prices, lah, right? So it's convenient, right? Because all the clearing, settlement, and all that done on the SGX. So again, it's the convenience of buying just like you buying any stocks in SGX. Okay. They have custodian. So of course, SDRs are custodized by the CDP. So your money is basically safe, or your shares is safe. It's like a CDS account with safe there, lah. It's your CDS or CDP is basically your account for you to deposit your shares, right? Flexibility and fungibility. Now you can also convert the SDR, provided that you are Thai, all right. If you want to convert your SDR to NVDR, you can. I'm going to talk about that as well. So you can actually convert if you want to, but of course there's some risk involved, right? Like the size, or even there's a forex differences. You probably have to top up a little bit, or even maybe not. It depends, right? Many factors. If you want to convert back into the underlying, which is the NVDRs. Okay, transparency as well. So whether there's announcements on corporate actions related to the SDR, then whatever corporate actions is being taken on the underlying share, right? Underlying company, for example, like AOT or SPOL, CPOL, and the other PTTP. Okay, whatever announcements there will also be reflected, and it will also be published on the SGX website. All right, so and there's no information being held or whatever corporate actions or whatever announcements being done by that company, you can find all this information on the SGX website. All right. So the Thailand SDR currently there's three. Okay. So you can look at the names and the code here, right? So the SDR, the name is basically Airports of Thailand. In SGX, the code is TATDT. TATD. All right. So if you're trading, if you're looking for the code for Airports of Thailand, for example, is TATD, right? Airports of Thailand. Okay, so T is basically the SDR code that they put in the front, right? For example, like SGX TCPD, right? So T, CP, and D, and then the PTTEP is basically TPED, right? So we've actually covered two companies here, Airports of Thailand and also the CPOL stock. Okay, the underlying market is underlies Stock Exchange of Thailand. So basically, you buy one NDR is equivalent to one share in the SGX in Thailand, right? So it's the ratio is 1-to-1, right? So you buy one goes to one. There's no leverage here. Okay. So these are the benefits. These are the features of the SDR. So the SDR holders basically they have no voting rights, right? They have the same economic benefits like dividends or any other corporate exercises which involves economical or financial changes to ownership. You'll carry the same benefit. Okay, so the only benefit you don't have is the non-voting rights, and if you are a Thai, you can actually have the right to convert the Thai SDR to the underlying NVDR. Okay, and of course, this you have to submit your request to the SDR issuer, right? Or similarly, if I'm a Thai again, only a Thai, and if I'm holders of the underlying NVDR and I want to apply for SDR, Thailand SDR in Singapore. Let's say I'm a Thai, I want to move to Singapore, right? I can convert back to the Singapore DR. Okay, if I'm a Singaporean, for example, if I'm a Thai and want to go back to Singapore, I go back to Thailand, for example, I can convert the SDR back to the NVDR. All right, and as a Thai in Thailand Stock Exchange, I can convert my NVDR back into the underlying shares. Okay, but remember, whenever there's a conversion and all that, there's some cost involved. There are also some risk involved, like forex risk and so on and so forth. All right. So you can always find more info. Later, I'll give you the website. It's sgx.com/campaign/8SDR. There's quite a lot of info there, right? What about the risks in investing in SDR? Okay, so the risks involved in investing in stocks basically is what the risk that you have when you invest in NVDRs as well, right? Market risk, price risk, liquidity risk, and so on and so forth. Those are the common stocks risk. Okay, so additional to that risk, of course you have your foreign currency exchange risk, all right? Meaning that if you buy a Thai stock and foreign currency goes down, because remember when you are trading in SGX, it is quoted in Singapore dollars, all right? So you're buying in Singapore dollars, so there is this foreign exchange risk, okay? Of course, it's overseas market risk arising from the market overseas, right? Because now, for example, if I'm in Malaysia investing or I'm in Singapore, I do not know what's the market risk right now in Thailand. That's the risk that we have to take as well, right? Foreign laws, regulations, and all that in other countries. Okay, there could be different trading hours as well. Okay, but the good thing about Thailand and Singapore and Malaysia, we are almost the same timing, so that is not much of a difference, but there is like market opening hours and closing hours, right, that we have to take note of. And of course, also there's some risks that arise from the terms of the SDR, because there's also a lot of other terms and conditions that you have to look into, right? Like how when you want to convert your SDRs, for example, to NVDRs and all these kind of terms, okay? And of course, these terms can be changed by the issuer of the SDRs in SGX as well. All right. Okay, so for any more information, like I said, you can just go to sgx.com, or you can just search for SDR in sgx.com. right? You get quite a lot of information there, lah. All right. So this is one possible way where we can diversify investment into Thai stocks, right? Even as Malaysians, you can open an account, for example, through M Invest, right? Make sure it's a regulated participating broker, lah. Don't just simply invest in other brokers that are not regulated, right? So you can go through NVS, open an account with them, and then once you open an account with them, you can start trading the Singapore shares, right? So when you are able to invest in SGX, that means you can invest in Singapore shares, REITs, and the others, whatever that's traded on the SGX, plus this SDR, which is these 3 Thailand stocks as well. If you want to diversify your portfolio into Thailand, all right? Because as a foreigner, you can't buy Thailand shares, right, directly. So indirectly, we can buy it through the SDRs or the Singapore Depository Receipts. All right. So that's all my presentation for tonight. I hope it gives you a view. This product is actually quite new in Singapore. They just launched this last year, and therefore, you can actually look at this as a way of getting into your investments into Thailand stocks. Any questions? If you have, you can type it down. Okay. If there's no questions, in the next 3 minutes, then I will end the session tonight. Thank you, Chris, for tuning in, and the rest of you guys who are tuning in as well. Please do find out more. Like I said, this is just the first 3 companies that SGX is going to bring through SDRs. And moving forward, there could possibly be more, right? So if you don't have an investment account or trading account, stock trading account in SGX, you can look for brokers, which in locally, right? Local brokers where you can trade Singapore shares. Okay, like M Invest, for example. All right. Okay, so if there's no any questions, thank you so much for attending to tonight's session. I hope that this session is gives you information of what you can do to invest in Thailand stocks through the SGX. With that, have a good evening, everyone, and also happy Merdeka, happy holidays for all Malaysians. Thank you.